reciente acuerdo
The
sobre
recent
la
agreement
cuestión
reached
nuclear
on the
en una
nuclear
región
question
sensible de
in a
Asia y
sensitive
Oriente
region
Medio
of Asia and the
es
Middle
una
East
prueba de
is
las
proof of the
posibilidades de la buena
potential of
voluntad política y
political
del
goodwill
derecho
and of law
ejercidos con
exercised with
sinceridad,
sincerity,
paciencia y
patience, and
constancia.
constancy.
The man who currently leads the Catholic Church honestly doesn't care how much money you have, doesn't care how big a nation you might lead, and certainly could seem to care less about political machines. But in the end, we're all politicians, and thus Pope Francis chose his words carefully to make his points as he took center stage at the United Nations. But did he leave something very important off the table while speaking here in America? We're joined by the former spokeswoman for the U.S. Conference of Catholics and senior fellow at the Family Research Council, Cathy Ruse, along with senior writer for the conservative political magazine Opportunity Lives, Israel Ortega. I want to thank you both for joining us. And Cathy, I'm going to begin with you on this one. Is it not fair to say that the Pope did play politics this time around? But then again, that's what a Pope should do in many instances. Play politics, talk to both sides. He's trying to make change. Yes?
I'm not sure I would embrace the phrase playing politics, but I will say that he did speak to some issues with veiled references, and other issues he seemed to hit very hard. He seemed to hit very hard political issues on the left, and he seemed to speak with very veiled references to issues that the right is more concerned about.
Well, I think that's my point, Cathy. When I say playing politics, that is my point. The Pope did take his message and did fit it to the politics. He was not just delivering a broad message here. He was being very pointed into whom he was talking about in every instance, correct?
Probably right. That's right.
But did he get it done? In your opinion, did he make his point? Did he get it through, and do you think the politicians are listening?
No, I don't think I don't think he's going to be listened to in his reference to our moral responsibility for the innocent developing human life. That's unborn children, and I think that's going to be missed. Unfortunately, he didn't use the word abortion, and so it's going to be easy for people to ignore that phrase. His reference to the challenges to fundamental relationships and the very basis of marriage, that speaks to me about the challenges that we are facing in this country with the redefinition of marriage. But he didn't speak it very clearly, and so I think that could be ignored. And hopefully we'll get to talk also about some of his comments at the UN, because there may be things there that people that aren't close UN watchers won't know, because, again, they're veiled.
Mm-hmm. Israel, you wrote an article entitled "The Pope's Visit is an Opportunity for Conservatives to Discuss Poverty and a Way of Reminding Our Increasingly Secular Culture that All Life is Meaningful." Wonderful article, but again, I'm going to ask basically the same question I asked Cathy. Do you think the message got through to the right people and they're going to pay heed to it, or will they just discount it at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think ultimately that will be something that's answered by politicians, particularly on the right. As I wrote in the article, the left talks about these issues a lot more and a lot more frequency than the right, and I think that's a missed opportunity. Conservatives have a record they can point to. If you look at the left's policies, particularly in the last 50 years when it comes to poverty, it's not a stellar record, and so I would hope that more and more Republicans, more and more conservatives talk about poverty, because it's going to be an important issue, I think, in next year's election.
Israel, I want to ask you something also about issues here, because while the Pope talked about many issues, one of the things that we have covered here quite extensively on the Hardline, and something that I have talked about and I commented about last night, is the sexual abuse of young boys by priests, not only here in America, but around the world as well. I was very disturbed to see the Pope not take this on, not go forward on it, not really be forceful in it. I mean, we've heard things, but Israel, I've got to be honest with you. Many of the people I talk to say the cover-up still continues, and the Pope should have said something about this very strongly out loud, especially here in America. Did he miss his chance?
Maybe, but I think he was talking to the House of Representatives. He knew his audience were politicians, are politicians, and so absolutely, I think there's still a lot of Catholics who need more encouragement, need to return back to the church. So it needs to be a sustained effort. It's not going to happen overnight.
So, Cathy, I put the same question to you and also then ask you, not only the sexual abuse question, but is there anything else in your opinion the Pope missed on this American trip?
I will I will speak to something I thought he was very obscure about at the UN, which is he talked about condemning ideological colonialism. And I'm sure that a lot of people don't know really what he's talking about when he says that. But then he went on and he said the colonialism that seeks to impose anomalous models and lifestyles which are alien to people's identity. What he's talking about, and people are going to miss this, but it's really important, is the exporting and imposing of a liberal Western view of human sexuality on nations who have very different views about human sexuality, who hold very much more traditional views. So there's a fight going on now at the United Nations between many African countries and some countries in the West about this exporting of liberal sexual ideology, and he's addressing this. Now, he does it in such a way that people are going to miss it. But this, from my perspective, it was kind of exciting to hear him talk about this, even though it was obscure.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, because undoubtedly we're going to be taking what the Pope said here at the United Nations in front of Congress. We're going to be tearing this apart now for quite a number of weeks and still going to try to decipher it, as you will. And I agree, sometimes it takes a little time to decipher what he said, but still, in all, a wonderful message that the Pope pushed forward. I would hope people listened. Cathy Ruse, Israel Ortega, I want to thank you both for joining us very much. We're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks. Let's talk to you now about a chance to learn a little bit more about the Pope. Who is this gentleman? We have a way for you to find out. Learn more about the man and his humble rise to the Vatican in the book, Francis, A Pope for Our Time. All you have to do is simply go to newsmax.com/Pope or call 800-203-7047. Learn more about the man, learn more about his message, and then you can take all that and put it all together with what he has said here in America the last couple of days. We've got more to say. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes in news continues.